Discover your inner goddess and live up to your highest value and most abundant potential. Welcome to Grateful Goddesses, a podcast that empowers you to unleash your inner goddess and take the leap of faith to live your best life. Your guide, Pulver, joins her fellow goddesses in soulful conversations about gratitude, personal growth, authentic living, and a bevy of topics affecting women today. Let's start the show with your host, Pulver.
Welcome everyone to Grateful Goddesses. So, you know how things happen and they are coincidences or things change in your life? Well, this morning I came upstairs to do this podcast in my office, and there was banging outside next door because they're redoing their roof. My neighbor's redoing her roof. So I frantically was just trying to decide, where am I going to go? So I came into this room, and this is my son's room. In fact, today is his 26th birthday, and I am not with him. He's in Toronto. But it is so interesting that I'm having this podcast today in my son's room, because our guest today is going to be talking about her son and the incredible life that he had, even though it was cut short, and her incredible lessons that she learned from her son, and how grateful she is for him being in her life, even though it was for a short time. So it reminds me, sitting in this room today doing this podcast, of how grateful I am for my son. Happy birthday, honey. And how we should really cherish every single moment that we have with our children and with each other, and support each other through any kind of challenges that we have. And we're going to learn from our guest today about the many lessons she learned from her son, Jacob. Her name is Ellen Schwartz. Ellen has 3 children. Her eldest was Jacob, and he passed away at 21. I wanted to read this from one of her books. She's the author of Lessons from Jacob. A disabled son teaches his mother about courage, hope, and the joy of living each day to the fullest. It was happening, the worst possible nightmare imaginable for a new parent, for any parent. It's a rare, inherited, fatal neurodegenerative disorder for which there's no known treatment or cure. All I heard was fatal. She must be talking about some other child. It felt like a huge door had just swung shut on my beautiful dream. How was I to know that, in fact, I had just been handed the most wonderful miracle? And that is about her son, Jacob, who had a rare disease called Canavan disorder. Ellen really is a true goddess. She has the ability to move and inspire audiences due to her unwavering belief in her son's abilities, her steadfast commitment to education and research into neurodegenerative diseases, and her heartfelt desire to help others cope with life's toughest challenges. She is an incredible woman, and we are so grateful to have her on Grateful Goddesses today to share her story, to help inspire you perhaps, and to help you to understand how difficult things can be, but you can still have hope, and with all the many lessons that Jacob has taught her and she is now sharing with the world. Welcome, Ellen Schwartz, to Grateful Goddesses.
Hi. Thank you so much, Karen. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you too. And when we met, we were talking about being a mother and how that was, becoming a mother was a huge dream that you had. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So even when I was little, when people asked me, what do you want to be when you grew up? That my number one answer was, I just wanted to be a mom. I couldn't wait. I could not wait for that day. So it's just always something I knew I wanted to do and wanted to be.
And you had Jacob, and I know that we were reading, obviously, your many books. One is called Lessons from Jacob, as I mentioned in your bio, in addition to Without One Word Spoken. And you wrote Lessons from Jacob in 2006. Can you share with us some more about Jacob? We know that he loved music and he had a great sense of humor. Can you talk with us? I'm in my son's room, as I mentioned, and he, as you can see, is a hockey fan. He's got hockey lights and Blackhawks, which is still on his bed, and he's 26. You know, he still loves hockey. And I know Jacob loved sitting on your husband's lap and listening to the hockey games. Can you tell us more about him?
So, well, actually, I'm in Jacob's room too. as Jacob got older, and I'll go back and tell his story a little, but when he got older, his disabilities were so severe that we really couldn't take him places. So we tried to bring people to us. So we built a house, which was perfect for Jake. And I'm actually in the room that was supposed to be his. So if you, that's our daughter swimming, but this is Jake. This was supposed to be Jacob's room.
Right.
And I'm actually sitting in his shower right now, like what would have been his shower. But I come here whenever I want to be inspired or live and feel the way Jakey did. And this is Jake's lounge now, not his room. And it is still his room. But Jake we saw when he was young, very young, about 3 weeks of age, he wasn't making any of his milestones. So he wasn't lifting his head. His eyes weren't tracking. They weren't doing what babies are supposed to do. So we had him tested and for about 2 months. And at 4 months, he was diagnosed with a rare fatal neurodegenerative disease that attacks the central nervous system. It's called Canavan Disease. So they told us he would never be able to walk or talk or see or move, and probably wouldn't live to his 5th birthday. Mm-hmm. So the doctors were right about a lot in his life. He never said one word, never spoke one word. He actually said a lot. He was never able to move. He had very severe disabilities and medical, lot of complex needs. And yeah, he lived till 21. So every day of his life was a miracle. And we were so lucky to have him in our lives and in our world for as long as we did. We had him.
And I know you had said in your book about this too shall pass. You mentioned that you learned so much from him, but one of the things was that. And how did you use that though in your darkest days? Because I know, even the simple little things, people, our listeners and viewers are thinking, I can't get through this. And I mean, what you went through just with all the operations, and then you've also had miscarriages and a lot of different things happen, and trying to figure out how to navigate. How did you do that?
I used to say this too shall pass a lot, because we would go through, endless bouts of pneumonia and his seizures. And that's what I would say to myself, like, this is going to end, things are going to be okay again. And that would get me through moment to moment. Now, looking back, I wish it didn't pass, because I can't bring him back. So I said this too shall pass, and it did, but I miss him every second of every single day. So I don't say that as much, but I did.
But it worked for you at the time.
It worked for me at the time. Yeah. And still, when I'm going through really difficult moments, I do say that to myself. This is going to pass. This too shall pass. But that happens with good moments too, and we have to remember that. And that's something that I learned, that when we're in our moments of deep, deep joy, right? Our happiness, that's going to end too, right? So our sorrow is going to end, and so is our happiness. And we have to be aware of that especially when we're in our deep joy, we have to remember that somebody is going through deep sorrow. And in our worst moments, somebody is going through great joy, and that's okay. And that's what makes the world go round, right? So, sorry.
No, absolutely. I was talking with one of the featured goddesses that's joining us today, Lara, this morning, about we can't experience joy without experiencing some kind of pain. And it's such a hard pill to swallow, but it's so true. We can certainly, default to happiness or default to sadness, but until we experience that really deep feeling, and so it's, in a way, that's how, when I was reading your book and you were talking about blessings and about like having him in your life, you are now able to understand joy as well as such sorrow. but you had support as well. Can you tell us about your support system?
So we're very lucky. We have a very close knit family, and we have friends that are family and family that are friends, pretty much. So we are surrounded by the most wonderful people, and that's such a gift. It's such a gift to have people in your lives that will jump if you need them, and even without asking, right? Like when Jacob passed, we were in a rental house because remember I'm in his room, so we're building a house. We're in a rental house, and there was a den on the main floor, so it was wheelchair accessible. But that room had a fireplace in it. We had to turn off the gas because Jacob was on oxygen, and this room was basically a hospital room because it had his pumps and his hospital bed and everything that he needed to survive. And then he passed, and we would have his Shiva in days when Shivas were happening.
Yeah.
That was the only room I wanted to be in. I didn't want to be anywhere else. So one of my girlfriends arranged to have everything medically out of that room, and she brought in carpet, she brought in couches, she got the fireplace lit, she put up his beautiful artwork in frames and just made Jake's room that would have been a hospital room into a lounge. So for that week, we just sat in there and we just felt so close to Jacob. So it's to have people in your lives that just, you don't need to say, can you do this? They just do. And that's a real blessing for us because we had that always with Jacob.
And people to step up and just do it without, like, sometimes we're hesitant. Should we help this person? What should we do? Because a lot of people don't ask for help or don't seem like they appear to need help. But even just to send that text message or drop off a sweet treat or something, flowers, something to help is so supportive, right?
I've always said that what can I do to help is probably the worst question you could ever ask somebody who is going through a tough time, you know? Because they'll never, ever say, oh, can you do this? Can you do? They just won't.
Right.
I know I wouldn't. So, you know, you just do. And maybe it's wrong. The guest could be wrong, but they know that your heart was in the right place and that you're there for them. So what happens is if you do jump to just help, they may say, hey, can you pick up my kids or can you do this? Because they know that you're there for them. And so I just say, just dive in, just do something, help, do whatever you can.
And if they don't need help, they'll know that you're going to be on their, radar. Like you are going to reach out to them should you need it, should you need a meal, should you need help. Yeah. I'd like to bring on our featured goddesses now. We have so much to ask you and so much to learn from you. So I'm going to bring on Rachel, Dina, and Lara. And Rachel is going to start asking questions to you.
Hi, Ellen. So nice to meet you. I just have to say how I'm really so inspired by your story and how on just you even talking about Jacob's spaces and even living in this home that he never lived in yet you had designated this room, how like it's a place for inspiration. I just think that you are so connected on such a deep level to him and his spirit and all of the beautiful things that you did with your life. And I just was going to share a story. This is my husband's older brother has severe developmental disabilities. And so this is how my husband grew up, with a brother who lived with them for the first 13 years of his life. And now he's actually in a community, it's called Soulful. It's a Waldorf school of philosophy. It's beautiful, and they live with companions. And so, but anyway, I think about the family dynamics, and I remember my mother-in-law always says that she also wanted her sons, that she had after her older son, to also lead a normal life. And so it was just an interesting family dynamic. But I think about what a wonderful, my husband is so wonderful and has so much patience, and he's a different person because he grew up with a brother like that. And I I'm curious about your family dynamics and how that worked.
So you're very right. And we have a daughter, Bevy, who's now 21, and we have a son, Ben, who's 17, almost 18. And I believe because of Jacob, they are very well adapted. They're so resilient. They know how to bounce back when life hits hard. They are so caring and so understanding, and they're just really not judgmental of anyone because they know there's always a story inside the actions of someone, right? So that's just, since they were born, they've known that. I mean, they've been opening doors for us so we can carry Jacob through, or when we're in the wheelchair van and we're going down a hill and Jake's head would flop down, they would be picking his head up. They learned very young how to suction. They would lie beside their brother and make him smile. So it's just molded them into the people they are. And I feel very blessed that they are who they are because of Jacob. Our daughter is trying to get into med school. She wants to be a doctor. She wants to help people. I think if Jacob wasn't here, she wouldn't maybe have gone that direction. So and people tell me, one of the best compliments is when somebody tells you, and I'm sure you all know this, when somebody tells you, like, your child was at my house and I need to tell you this is something that they did. And that just makes you so happy, and it makes you feel so good because they're good people. And that's all we want, right? We just want kind, accepting, loving people that we hopefully raised. And I think that Jacob was the best parent that they had. So yeah, they're great. They really are.
Well, they will continue that karma with their children, because I have to say my children, since they were, I remember one of my kids only wanted Uncle Brian to push his stroller, because we always get to see him on, we always coordinate our family vacations around his vacations. We go to the Jersey Shore together. We live with, for at least two weeks, twice a year, we are with him. And so I think also my children have really benefited from Brian's influence in our family.
Yeah.
And Ellen, you shared Jacob with your classroom, your 4th grade classroom. And I was reading about that and how wonderful that is. And the parents and the other teachers were like, what an amazing way to talk about compassion and empathy. And the kids loved having him in the class, right? And he loved being there, I'm sure, being wheeled around outside for recess, right?
So when I was a teacher, I still am a teacher. My teaching has morphed into something else, but when I was a teacher, I used to bring him into my classroom, and I just can't think of a better lesson on empathy than exposing children to things that are different and letting them ask questions and letting them understand. Jacob taught so many people, almost everybody who took the time to get to know him, they knew him by feeling him. Like you just felt his goodness and his kindness. And when somebody made him smile, it lit up his life, and you could see it, and it lit up their world. And anybody that became his friend just kept coming back. He had the most beautiful friendships I'd ever seen. Our house was always busy with love and with music, because he loved music. We learned very early on, that was how he communicated. There was always music when Jake was around, and Jake was always around, so there was always music. And we just brought in the most talented, wonderful people that would come in, especially on Sundays, into our house to sing to him live. And even since his passing, we continue that legacy. So since COVID hit, we've been having live Zoom concerts every Sunday with the special needs community and many of Jacob's talented friends. And every Sunday at 4, we get together, and it's just so uplifting. And it's almost as if Jake is there too. I just feel that he's there.
I had the privilege of joining in on the Zoom. I highly recommend it. I saw the families all sitting on their couches watching, and I don't remember her name, but there was a girl that was singing along with music that I had tears. It was so beautiful, and just everyone commenting to her and her smiling afterwards. It was such a lovely way to continue his legacy, especially with something he loved. Lara, you have some questions for Ellen.
Hi, Ellen and I have known each other for years. I'm not sure if I ever told you that I read your book when you had written it in 2006, and Lessons from Jacob. And it was at a time in my life where reading was a big challenge for me. I was busy with my 3 kids, and I'd pick up a book and end up like falling asleep and just throwing in the towel. But I received your book, where I went and purchased it, and I literally stayed up till 3 a.m. reading it. I could not put it down. And I really was overcome with emotion. I can clearly remember sort of sobbing and reading and just getting this amazing sense of positivity, and this gift that you were sharing with everyone in the world to look for the silver linings or find the positivity when you're hit with this sadness that you're trying to work through and make it work. And I was going through the loss of my mother and raising my kids with a hole in my heart, and it was challenging. So it was a gift that you gave me many years ago. And one thing sort of hit me when you talked about a situation you were in Starbucks, overhearing some women chatting, young moms, and they were basically sweating the small stuff when it came to raising their kids. And I particularly had many conflicts with that, hearing people complaining and when really I thought you should just be grateful. Yeah. So I was wondering if you can reflect on that moment, and I guess that might have been the beginning of you sharing Jacob's lessons with the world. Was that one of the reasons, or can you reflect on that and also why you chose to write the book?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
So being hit with news like that is just devastating. And I think at that moment in Starbucks, my latte was kind of my happy, like it was just it's like my blankie. Like I would take a sip of that like latte, and Jake and I would go, and we go every morning, and it was kind of our thing that we did together. And I would sip, and I just go, oh, it's going to be okay in the world. And I remember standing in line and just hearing these parents and just talking about the child. It was about baseball and how they got struck out and that the ref wasn't being nice. It was just, I wasn't in a place to listen to that. And because I was in a place of, are you going to live till tomorrow with my child? And I just remember feeling like, really, seriously? So I think that's the only time, honestly, that I really felt kind of anger. But I guess it must have been a stage, one of the stages of acceptance, right? Mm-hmm. And so that takes me back. But then the reason I actually wrote the book, and it's actually a funny story, is I was laying in bed with Jacob and Jeff, and I said to Jeff, you know what, I'm just going to write a book. I really think we need to share these lessons. We need to share Jake's life. We need to talk about all the good that has come out of Jake's life. And he said, because I'm a real ideas person, and I always have these great ideas, and sometimes I pounce, sometimes I don't. And he said to me, I'll believe it when I see it, right? And that was it. That's all I needed. I got out of bed and I started writing. And I'm so thrilled that he said that, and I'm really happy I did, because it was so cathartic to write that book, that first book especially, because it was me coming to terms with all those feelings and being so raw and so honest. And then the second book was more just all the lessons I learned in a much happier place. So the first book I was really struggling. The second book I would, okay, I think I have this worked out. But then now I'm writing again to release the second book with 8 chapters because I was, on my head again because Jake passed. And it was like, oh my God, I was not equipped for that. I had 21 beautiful years to prepare me for that. And then it happened. And boy, was I not prepared. And so I have a little bit to say about grief and moving on through grief, and a few more lessons to share here too.
I'm very looking forward to that book, and I am going to buy it. You inspire so many with your lessons and Jake's lessons. So I thank you again.
Thank you.
And in your first book, to talk about the lessons in this book, the first one, I mean, number 1, worry time. Now I only worry about things that I can control. I love this. Every day I set aside a specific time to worry. For me, it's in the shower. And we talked about this on another episode with Leslie Davenport, who's a psychologist, and she said the same thing, like about spending whatever time you need during the day, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, and then putting it away. And then later on, if it pops up in your head, you're like, well, I already worried about that, and I'm going to save this for tomorrow. I found that so important to learn. And you talked about controlling what we can. So making appointments, taking care of things that you can, but then letting it be. And the second one, no expectations, just not really, expecting anything. And then you'd be surprised by the generosity of others. The less we expect, the happier and more fulfilled we are. The third was pity party. You said, from that day on, whenever it is necessary, I plan a pity party. I vent about my marriage, my frustrations, our children, family problems, or just life in general. But then you go on. And then me time, definitely making time for yourself. Perhaps it would be the latte, or even just punching into the air. And then making someone else feel special. Every Friday night, I make a Jewish sweetbread called challah. Every Friday night, Jeff, your husband, sits Jacob on his lap, and they cut the bread together. And you deliver it to different people, and you'd have fun just trying to figure out who would this challah go to. And then smiling. Jacob loved to smile, but he encouraged you to smile, it seems. So though, I just wanted to read those because what incredible lessons in this book. And then the next book, Without One Word Spoken, goes into even more lessons. I'm not going to read all 18, but I want our listeners and viewers to know how inspirational this is. Is there any one lesson, or I guess a few from the ones I shared, that you feel perhaps our listeners and viewers can focus on to help them get through daily struggles?
So the worry time is key, is absolutely key. And it's hard to do. It's really because, we're, especially as a mom, I don't know if I could speak for all of you, but we're constantly worrying. Am I wrong? Yeah. So it really puts that time, it's like an important meeting that you have that you just do not miss. And for me, I get to have a shower, I get to be clean. So it's like double, but you hop in that shower, or me, and I worry, I think about anything that is bothering me. And if you can control it, you just take care of it right then and there. So it's just out of your head, like it's gone. But often we can't. And if you can't, then you have to say to yourself, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do. And then you keep going back to it tomorrow till eventually it's not a worry, because as we talked about earlier, this too shall pass, right? But it does get you through those times. And one thing that I've also really helped me is, I call it memorizing the moment. And it's taking a mental snapshot when you are feeling joy, when you are feeling happiness, because often we get busy with life and you're feeling this moment and it's wonderful, but then it goes. Right? So when I find I'm in those moments, I stop and my kids giggle with me because they know exactly what I'm doing. But I shut my eyes and first I look around and I shut my eyes so I can feel it and I can sense it and I can smell, I can hear, I'm just, and then eventually when you're feeling low, you can shut your eyes and that moment comes right back. So, and the beauty of it is even when I don't have Jake, often if I'm feeling stressed or I'm feeling just not happy, I can shut my eyes and I'm lying in bed with him and I can smell him, I can feel him, I feel his breath, and he always breathes so slowly, so it slows down my breathing and I just go to this place. And we can all do that. We can all go to that place if we take the time to recognize when we're so at peace and memorize it. So that's another thing that really helps.
Do you all do that?
I live my life exactly the way you're talking about. The shower's like this amazing place for me. I feel like my spirit guides come to me, like I work everything out. And there's a lot of things with water, but even worry, I really am good at compartmentalizing it. I haven't gone through the same struggles as you, but just in life in general.
Yeah.
Laura, do you?
Well, I was going to say I've started to journal over the last year, and I get that statement out of my worry. I just put it on paper and I hope for the best. And then I reflect at the end of the day to see if any of those things actually came to be. And most of the time, the worries never happen. So I definitely do that. And I love that idea of having that time in the shower. And I was going to say also, I think Karen and I were just discussing this, and all of us have, and it's something, Ellen, I think that you can really take a snapshot of that moment of joy because you have a lot of contrasting feelings. And you can feel that pure joy. And I think that's important for people. There are people in life who are lucky enough to just sail along and they don't really have these emotions. So I think it's amazing to share with others to really take the time to take the snapshot. Great idea. I'm going to do that.
Dina, do you?
I don't do the breathing, and the shower is not my happy place. But as I'm sitting here listening, it brings me back to my situation, which I'll touch briefly on. Everyone knows I lost a husband almost 10 years ago and had 2 little girls. And I try all the time to remind myself that I'm still very grateful for them and not get caught up in all the little things, should it be not making a certain team or get invited to a certain party or not get the grade or whatever the case may be. And so I'm oftentimes reflecting and realizing that I have so much still to be grateful for. And clearly my loss and grief showed me that. And I think my kids share, like your children, they're very resilient. They came to the world with this, and this is who they are, and it defines them. The breathing is beautiful. It's something that I definitely need to look into and start practicing, because I think it would just slow everything down for me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I wanted to read in your book. I read this book too. You talked about this. Nothing grabbed me until I opened Many Masters, Many Lives by Brian L. Weiss, former head of psychiatry department at Mount Sinai Medical Center in Miami Beach. The book gave me exactly what I needed. I needed to believe that there was life after death. I needed to know that Jacob wasn't put on this earth to suffer and die young. I needed to know that Jacob's life had a purpose. I needed to understand why Jacob was here for his sake. Maybe Jacob was here for the rest of the world. We are here to learn a lesson in life, and once those lessons are learned, we can move on to a better place and a better world. In fact, religious people would say, when they look at Jacob, they would feel God's presence. They feel he's on a higher spiritual level. I feel you are on a higher spiritual level.
I don't know about that. That's very nice of you to say that. But I feel that I want to be with him again. I need to see him again. And actually, I wrote this song, and I'm not a songwriter, but I did in honor to him, I wrote a song to him. And in the song are the words, "I'll earn my wings to be with you one day." And that is how I'm living every day now. I'm just trying. I'm trying to be as good as I can be. I'm trying to. He was just this pure soul. He just lived. I don't think he ever had a negative thought in his life. He was pure joy. He was love. He was, if you could personify love, it was Jacob. And I'm trying as hard as I can to live my best life so I can see him again, because I know he's out there and I know he's in a good place, and I just want to get there. So, well, I'm not in a rush.
Right.
There's a lot to do here, and I want to see our children married. I want to meet our grandchildren hopefully one day. There's so much to live for, but I do want to be with him again one day.
And before we get into your initiatives that Dina wants to ask you more detail about, I did want to touch on this because it was not without struggle. You're very candid about your struggles in your book, Lessons from Jacob, with your husband. And every marriage has issues, but dealing with a child that is going through this, you took turns, you didn't sleep in the same bedroom. I mean, even just day-to-day struggles that we all have with our spouses, looking at what you went through, but you admit to it and you talk about it and you went to therapy, which is so important for people to hear, because sometimes people feel like, no, they're not going to get help, they'll get through it, but we all need help, we need support. And you talk about that, and you talk about how now your marriage is even stronger than ever. Can you share with us a little bit more about that?
Oh yeah, our marriage is so strong right now. I'm more in love now with Jeff than I ever have been, and I was in love with him always. So it, but not without the struggles, because we're different people. But one thing that I learned is you have to accept each other for who each other are. There's a reason you married that person, right? There's a reason, and actually those are usually the reasons that drive you crazy later in life. But I just have so much respect and so much love for him, and we can only change ourselves. So I've changed myself a lot, and I believe he's changed himself a lot. And we've been through so much with each other, and we're always there to support each other no matter what. To know that somebody has your back every second is a pretty wonderful thing. So yeah, we just got a puppy, right? So now we're taking turns nights back to when Jake was little. But yeah, we're very lucky. But you have to go through those rocky moments again, like Lara, which you mentioned. If you don't go through the crap, you're never going to get to go through all these beautiful moments together. So you have to go through it. There's no doubt about it.
And something like this can break up a marriage, but if it's important to recognize, like you said, I believe the rabbi told you before you were married about 90%. What was his phrase? Give 90%. No, take.
The only way, he said, yes. The only way your marriage is going to work is if you both give 90% and take back 10. But I think that equation works with everything, every single relationship. As soon as you start expecting, you're going to be disappointed. Exactly. But like you said, if you don't expect, you're always surprised and you're always pleased.
Well, like you said, that's what you said.
Well, the rabbi said.
What Jacob's taught you, and it's so true. Dina, can you ask some of your questions now?
Yes. Hi. So it's without saying that we see your resilience and your perseverance and during Jacob's life and after. And I'm curious to know about what incentives you're now doing. I know you spoke about the third book you're writing in order to help others and maintain his legacy, which is huge.
Thank you. So yeah, so we started that, which has been something I look forward to every single week, because it's, so it takes some planning, and I send out the emails to the performers, who's in this week, and I get this, so now I'm in. It's so sweet, and I get to plan the set list. So that's a really nice part of my week. But also I run a program in different schools called Project Give Back, and it's catered to elementary students, and it teaches kids the value of empathy, compassion, community mindedness. So we're in schools all over, but then COVID hit and we can't be in all the schools we were in. So I started something kind of like this in a Zoom format, and it's called Project Give Back Connects. And it's me interviewing just the most unbelievable people. And the shows are taped and they're sent to teachers in classrooms all over. So it's been a real treat to have these conversations similar to this right now. Thank you. And it's just learning through empathy and sharing that. So I've been working on that as well, which is just such a highlight. And
is it something you brought here in the States too, or no?
We tape it and I put it on YouTube, but then we sent it to lots of teachers, but anybody could access it. Because people don't really know about it because it's
right.
But yes, of course, it's called Project Give Back Connect. So you can watch our last episode. We had one on anxieties. We had one on overcoming challenges. We had one on resiliency. This week's was silver linings, and it was with my friend Dana, who has 3, of course, triplets are 3. So she has triplets, and they all have cerebral palsy. And so it's her story, and one of her sons, Cole, talks about what it's like to have cerebral palsy. It's probably one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. So I get joy from watching other people feel joy. That fills my bucket. And so I'm just going to continue to do that. And the power of giving, it's almost so selfish, because you're giving, but you get so much more by giving to others. So that's kind of how I roll.
That's great. Well, I can't wait to watch Project Give Back. Yeah.
But you all,
awesome. Yeah.
I haven't seen them. I want to see. Can't wait.
But you also, now there's testing done because of Jacob and what you went through. Can you share that?
Right. So it's back to Starbucks. We're back in Starbucks because when Jake was 2, we had to do gene replacement therapy out at Yale to try to insert the gene that he was missing to hopefully help cure him. So we were all over the news, and I was having my latte as usual, and our barista said, "We want to help you. We want to help your family." And so I ran home to Jeff and I said, "Starbucks wants to help us." So we personally didn't want to take help from Starbucks, but we decided, well, let's start a charity. Let's do something to help others. So we started a charity called Jacob's Ladder, the Canadian Foundation for Control of Neurodegenerative Disease. And just because of Starbucks, and they were our first donor. And with them, and then this whole family of donors over 19 years, we ran the charity, but it raised over $3 million for education, awareness, and research into neurodegenerative diseases. And one of the things that we were able to do was have screening covered for Canadians for free and hassle-free for 7 devastating diseases. That was one of the platforms that we were able to do through Jacob's Ladder.
And you sell these bracelets.
So yes, so these bracelets, my arm is filled with them. Yeah. So the money from these bracelets now funds some classes for Project Give Back.
And tell us about the bracelet. So the bead is a significant part of it. Can you tell us what happens when you roll it forward or backward?
Right. So the bead represents Jacob's lessons in life, and I make these personally. I just sit in front of the TV.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. They're made with love. Every bead is put on, and they're made with love by me and sometimes my daughter, and if we have a big order, sometimes friends come in, we sit at our table and we all beat away. But the bracelet represents Jacob's lessons in life, which are to be kind, to be appreciative, to be positive, and to be understanding of others, because that's how he lived his life, and that's how I try to live my life. So the shiny bead is, if you're not feeling it, to roll that bead towards your heart and to remind yourself to go back there, to go back to that person that you want to be. And that's what the bracelet represents.
And I have purchased one for each one of my featured goddesses. I did pick gold, but they do come in silver and black. So maybe we can take personal orders for the colors. Although, did you already start making them?
There's a blue one.
Okay.
There's a black one. There's a silver one. There's a rainbow one.
Oh, I didn't see the rainbow.
The rainbow is new. There's a gold one. So you can go on the Project Give Back website, and they're all there. And then just let me know which one you want, and I'll make it up.
Okay.
So the money now goes
to that.
To classes. Yeah.
And this may be a touchy subject, but I'm very curious, and I think it's important to know. You did get pregnant again after Jacob, and you did get screened again.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about that, and the reason to do that, and what you went through going through that?
So yes, I was pregnant 7 times, and as you know, I have 3 children. So I had a couple miscarriages in there, and I had to be tested and to know that we weren't going to be bringing a child into this world who suffered and was going to die. For me, it was a very personal decision, and for anyone, it's a personal decision. Mm-hmm. But it was nice to know that we could be tested and we could have this information. Listen, I would never have thrown Jacob away. I love Jacob, and I am so grateful I had Jacob. But I talk about a lot of the good, but he suffered greatly. And when he suffered, it was heartbreaking for him to live with this, to watch him in pain. I mean, there were some days where he was having over 50 seizures a day, and you couldn't help him. There was nothing you could do. And to watch him in the end, to try to breathe, it was a year where he was not drowning every day. And I could never knowingly give a life of someone who was going to suffer so greatly, although he was so wonderful. It's a very personal subject, and it's something I could never give an opinion of others on.
Exactly. You write about it in your book, and I think it's important to share because it is a personal decision, but it is so amazing that now they're able to test for that, the same as they're able to test for Tay-Sachs disease. And just understanding that, again, that you are able to create this for people to be able to do and to figure out on their own. But getting back to all the amazing lessons that Jacob taught you and taught us, if our listeners and viewers would like to reach out to you to be involved in the many initiatives that you have done and continue to do, how can they do that?
Well, sure. You can get me by ellen@projectgiveback.com is a really easy way to get me by email. Or even if you go on the Project Give Back website, the info, it will go to my friend, but then it comes right to me. So those are 2 very easy ways to get me.
Thank you for sharing with us.
I have to tell you, I was on your podcast a couple of weeks ago with Susan King.
Oh, the GGTV, the live? That's right. That's right.
And I reached out to her.
Mm-hmm.
And she got right back to me, and we had the most beautiful telephone conversation.
Nice.
And I want to thank you for that, because without you, I would have never known about her or reached out to her. And she was so lovely, and she confirmed a lot of things with me by just being an intuitive, that she knew about me, that there was no way she could research. Like there was no way, like a childhood incident that happened to me when I was 6 years old, a trauma that she was feeling, and she just knew about it. And
Oh my gosh, I love hearing that because I love her. I think
yeah,
she's great.
it was
Sometimes she
so
tells you
cool.
things that don't make sense and then they come to you later, but she seems to tap in to her
It was really
intuitions.
neat. Yeah.
I'm so happy.
So thank you for that.
Did she help validate some of your feelings and things you were going through?
She did. Well, there was one thing that I thought was so interesting because Jacob's name is Jacob. But she said, his name's not Jacob. I'm like, it's Jacob. This is his name. I named him. No, I'm getting a Y. Y. I'm not seeing Jacob. His name starts with a Y, but his Hebrew name is Yaakov. So she, for the whole conversation, she never called him Jacob. She only called him Yaakov. And she saw a few other things that I just thought were just really interesting. So it
I'm
was
so glad.
You touched earlier on the point that you would like to keep the thought process going that you'll be reunited with Jacob and you want to earn your angel wings. And I just want to say, like, you are so remarkable, like such a standout example of someone who gets joy out of giving random acts of kindness. And I sense that about you, and I don't know you that well, but I just have to say that it gives me almost like the shivers to think, like, when you think of that expression, God gives you what you can handle. And you exemplify that for so many people.
It's true.
It's just really, really extraordinary. And we all have learned a lot from you today. So
thanks, Laura. I gotta come back to you for a minute. That Laura and I lost a very close friend of Laura's, and a friend of mine passed. And one thing I noticed that I saw you doing, which touched me every time I saw you, was she would take her daughter to spin class once a week, and it was kind of their date. But I got to see that, and I got to witness that love that you had for your friend and her daughter, and that was just such a beautiful thing. When I say just do it, just go for it, just do it, don't ask, that was watching you do that for your girlfriend, and that was beautiful to see. So thank you for that.
thank you. And you spiritually helped my beautiful friend who I miss every day. You really did help her. I know she had conversations with you that really set her at ease. So she was very grateful for that.
Yeah, she was a great one.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. You are the goddess of gratitude, of grace, of giving, there's such a long list. And you're being vulnerable today, sharing your stories with us about your son, your incredible son, Jacob, and all the lessons that he's teaching us. But I know this is going to help. So I'm hoping this platform of Grateful Goddesses will help our listeners, whether you're struggling through something, or you're in line in Starbucks and you're thinking about your child not getting on the baseball team. Take a minute and stop and think about how grateful you are. You have your child, and thank you for joining us on Grateful Goddesses today.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure.
Up next, favorite things. Opening up to happiness and joy.
Thank you for joining us today on Favorite Things with our guest, Ellen Schwartz. And we were talking with her about the many lessons that her son, Jacob, has given to the world. And one of them is learning to appreciate and be grateful for each other. So my favorite thing today are these stones. My son, and it's interesting, I'm in his room, collects stones. And in fact, he's got on his desk all of these smooth black stones, and they're all over his room. He places them in specific spots, but I had ordered these stones that say gratitude on them, and they're keychains, and I just got them on Amazon. But what I learned from our featured goddess, Rachel, she gives out little stickers that say you are beautiful, and I've been giving these gratitude rock keychains out to people. I carry a handful in my purse, and if there's someone that I'm just feeling, gratitude about, or someone, just a kind of random act of kindness, I'll I'll wipe it off with hand sanitizer, and then I'll give it to that person. So you will all be getting one, but it's a nice reminder to keep your keys on here, to always have gratitude. So that's one of my favorite things lately. Laura, what would you like to share?
So I'm very into scents. Dina, I know you are too. But lately, my grapefruit essential oil has been like, starts my day. I sometimes drop it into my shower, and I take a little sniff before I work out. And I have a cork mat in my gym, so I've been dropping it on my mat, and I use it in my diffuser. So it just starts the day. I find like when I have this in the house in the diffuser, people are just waking up in a better mood. I'm a morning person, but I'm noticing the non-morning people seem to be a little happier. So
What is it called, and where did you get it?
you can find this in any brand, but it's grapefruit essential oil. You can find it at any health food store.
Thank you for sharing that. Let's see if Dina brought a smelly thing too. She always seems to find amazing smelly things. Good smelling thing.
No smell today. I brought this new. I'm a big monogram person. I love everything monogram. So it's this really pretty gray monogram blanket. It's by Matuk, and it's super soft, and it's really just like at the end of my bed for decoration. But I find that I'm the only one, my husband doesn't, that cuddles up with it. It's so cozy and warm, and it's been really dog friendly. My dog has not torn it apart or gotten all over it, but I'm in love with it these days. As it gets colder, I find I'm gravitating to it more.
Where did you say you got it?
It's by Matuk. You can probably get it at Bloomingdale's or any online bedding store or something.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. Rachel, you're up.
So I am going to talk about bracelets, since we were talking about them today. And I already talked about Sista Biz. But I'm wearing these 2 bracelets, and I am trying to embody good all the time. And Ellen, your story really resonates with me, and kind of how I live my life. And Karen, thanks for the shout out for the "You Are Beautiful" stickers, because I love that. Like, it's like the greatest honor that you like did something that I am doing. Like
You inspired me to do that, because everyday people just doing little tiny gestures, and you want to show them how much you appreciate them, and that will make their day.
Exactly.
Well, thank you.
So thank you. And so these bracelets, I love big chunky bracelets, and I came a few years ago to be like, God, I have always loved Wonder Woman. And that is like who I channel. I feel like that is that's my goddess. Is I love Wonder Woman. I'm obsessed with her. In fact, today I wore a Wonder Woman hat on my walk with my husband, but I always wear big chunky bracelets, although during quarantine, not so much. I just wear my little Sista Biz lately. But so I want to highlight though this one. And it's made and designed by a woman. Her store is Winifred Grace, and it's in my neighborhood in Andersonville. But I have known her for 25 years. And then she opened this really cute boutique. And if you are looking for a small woman-owned business to buy holiday gifts, go to her boutique. She has designed beautiful jewelry. She has super cute clothes at really decent price points. She's not as crazy expensive at all, like little boutique store, but she also sells jewelry from other designers. But that is my shameless plug for Winifred Grace in Andersonville in Chicago, Illinois.
Ellen, what did you bring for your favorite thing?
So my favorite thing is actually not a favorite thing, it's a favorite place. So in a favorite view. So this is my view at the cottage. So this is, we built a wheelchair accessible cottage that we go to, and where Jake and I would sit out there, we'd have coffee in the morning, we'd be there back again with wine for sunsets. It's a gathering place for family and friends, and it's on the water, which is for us just so peaceful, and it's my favorite place. So that's my favorite thing.
I love, actually, I was mentioning that we have a family cottage too on Lake Simcoe, and it's so beautiful to sit. And you told us a story about a swan being on Lake Simcoe during the winter. And can you just, on the favorite things right now, just share that to our listeners and viewers?
Sure. So we were talking about signs, and especially with Dina and Lara, about signs that we've seen from the other side. And they asked me if I had seen signs of Jacob, and I definitely have. And one of those signs was Lake Simcoe freezes. It was in March, and there were a few puddles on the lake. And I looked out the window, and there was a swan sitting in the puddle. And it just, to me, just was like, hi, Jakey. So that was kind of a sign that I had with the water. But our family and water, it's a big part of our family. My husband and kids, they're big water skiers, and we just love to be on the water always.
Interesting, because I do feel like our guest today, Ellen, is Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
I wanted to end by reading in her book, Lessons from Jacob, a song that I believe Kayla and your sister-in-law sang, and he said, a moment I will never forget. They sang this original song for him, so they wrote this for him. One heart, one soul, a guiding light. Not a word needs spoken, not a step need take. Look what a difference one brave boy can make. Playing games, singing songs, spreading love and joy, climbing a ladder to a cure for one special little boy. His laughter is contagious, his smile is so bright, an inspiration to us all. He truly is a shining light. Jacob, Jacob, guiding us in his own way. Jacob, Jacob, shows us what really matters each day. Okay, I'm tearing up a little bit, but I love that song. I love your story, and I know this will inspire and help viewers and listeners. So thank you so much, Ellen, from the bottom of my heart for coming on Grateful Goddesses.
Thank you, everybody. It was so nice chatting with you guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Unleashed your inner goddess yet? Thanks for joining us today on Grateful Goddesses. We invite you to visit our website, www.gratefulgoddesses.com, to access today's show notes as well as other helpful resources. Don't forget to leave a review. Until next time, stay strong and empowered to be a grateful goddess.